On a warm afternoon in Moscow in 1945, an American ambassador accepted a gift that looked so innocent it could have hung in a school hallway. A large wooden plaque, hand-carved, polished, heavy. At the center, the Great Seal of the United States, the bald eagle, the shield, the arrows, the olive branch. It was presented by Soviet schoolchildren, smiles, cameras, handshakes, a symbol of friendship after the war. The ambassador thanked them, posed with it, and brought it back to the U.S. Embassy like a proud trophy. Then he did the one thing that made the gift priceless. He hung it on the wall, right behind his desk. For the next 7 years, that Great Seal watched everything: private meetings, classified briefings, negotiations, arguments, secrets spoken in low voices late at night. If the ambassador leaned back and spoke freely, the eagle was listening, because inside that polished wood was a device so advanced and so quiet that the Americans didn't even know it existed. Not for 7 years. Not until one man, doing a routine radio check, heard something that made his blood go cold. A voice, his own, coming back at him from thin air. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow wasn't just a building, it was a target, a fortress surrounded by eyes. Every hallway was assumed compromised, every phone line was assumed tapped, every visitor was assumed photographed. American diplomats knew the Soviet services were always trying to listen. The only question was how. So in the early 1950s, the embassy's communications staff ran constant sweeps, scanning frequencies for suspicious signals, checking equipment, listening for anything that didn't belong. Most days, it was boring, static, hiss, dead air. Then, one day in 1952, a radio operator was monitoring a secure line when he caught something strange, a faint, clear signal that shouldn't have been there. At first he thought it was interference, a reflection off a nearby antenna, a Soviet transmitter bleeding into their band. But as he tuned in closer, the signal sharpened, and he realized the terrifying truth. It wasn't Russian, it wasn't coded, it was English. Not just English, his own English. The operator heard American voices, voices from inside the embassy, floating back through the receiver like ghosts. He sat up slowly, heart thumping. Because there are only 2 explanations for that. Either their own equipment was leaking like a broken pipe, or someone inside the building was transmitting their conversations out into the street. He alerted his superiors. Within hours, the embassy went into a quiet panic. They didn't announce it. They didn't evacuate. They didn't shout, "Spy." They did something colder. They began hunting their own building. A full sweep started. Engineers moved room to room with detectors, probes, and receivers, searching for the source of the signal. They checked radios. They checked wiring. They checked the phones. Nothing. The signal was still there, still clean, still carrying American voices. So they widened the search. They swept the ambassador's office, the conference rooms, the private study, the most sensitive spaces. Still nothing, and that's what made it worse, because it meant the device wasn't a crude wiretap clipped to a line. It was something else, something smarter, something hidden, something built to survive a professional sweep. They kept scanning. They moved inches at a time. Then one engineer did something simple. He turned toward the wall behind the ambassador's desk, and he swept the Great Seal, the wooden plaque, the school children's gift, the eagle. The detector reacted. A small spike, barely a whisper. The team stopped. They rechecked. The spike returned. They stared at the plaque like it had just grown teeth. It made no sense. Wood is dead. Wood doesn't transmit, not unless someone put something inside it. They took the plaque off the wall. They carried it to a workbench. They inspected it from every angle. No seams, no screws, no obvious compartment. It was a perfect piece of craftsmanship, which meant if there was a device in there, it had been built in from the beginning, not added later. The engineers couldn't just pry it open without destroying it, and destroying it might destroy evidence. So they used what they had, X-rays. They ran the plaque through imaging. And that's when the room went silent, because inside the Great Seal, inside the eagle, was a hollow cavity. And in that cavity was something no one in the West had ever seen before. Not a battery, not a wire coil like a normal microphone, not a traditional transmitter. Just a tiny, elegant mechanism, almost like an insect, designed to come alive only when it was woken up from outside. A bug that didn't behave like a bug. A listening device that could sit silently for years, invisible to sweeps, because it didn't transmit unless the Soviets wanted it to. It was the perfect trap. A microphone without power, a transmitter without a battery, a device that could survive in plain sight because, most of the time, it was completely dead, until someone outside the embassy aimed the right signal at it. Then it woke up, and it talked. The Americans stared at it in disbelief. 7 years, 7 years of ambassador-level conversations, 7 years of classified strategy, 7 years of negotiations with the Soviet Union, spoken within feet of a carved eagle that was quietly feeding Moscow the truth. And now the question wasn't, did the Soviets bug the embassy? That was obvious. The question was much worse. Who built something this advanced in 1945? How did it work without power? And how many other friendly gifts were sitting in American buildings, silently waiting to wake up? Because if schoolchildren could hand you an eagle that listened, then the Cold War wasn't just being fought in Berlin or Korea or in the skies, it was being fought on your wall, right behind your desk. And you would never know until you heard your own voice coming back at you through the radio. The device inside the Great Seal didn't look like anything the Americans expected. There was no battery, no power pack, no obvious transmitter the way a normal bug would have one. Just a small resonant cavity, a thin diaphragm like a tiny drum, and a piece of metal shaped with insane precision, like the inside of a musical instrument designed to play only one note. The embassy engineers stared at it under a lamp, turning it carefully with tweezers, and one of them finally said what everyone else was thinking. "How is this even working?" Because for 7 years they had been sweeping the embassy for bugs, and those sweeps relied on one basic assumption. If a device is listening, it has to be alive. It has to draw power. It has to radiate something. It has to give off heat or electrical noise or a signal. But this thing was different. Most of the time it was dead. A perfectly silent microphone sitting inside polished wood. And that meant the Soviets had pulled off something close to a magic trick. They didn't just bug the U.S. ambassador's office. They built a bug that could hide in plain sight because it didn't behave like a bug at all. To understand how it worked, the Americans had to understand what the Soviets had done in 1945. Because that year matters. 1945 was not some sleepy time when the Cold War hadn't begun. It was the moment everything was resetting. The war was over. Germany was crushed. The alliance between Washington and Moscow was already cracking. And in Moscow, the Soviets were obsessed with one thing: information. If you can't match the United States in money or industrial speed, you match them in secrets. So the moment the Americans moved back into their embassy spaces, Soviet intelligence began planting ears. Not just with wiretaps, with ideas that were years ahead of the standard playbook, and one man, more than anyone else, made it possible. Leon Theremin. If that name sounds familiar, it should. He was the inventor of the theremin, an electronic musical instrument you play without touching it by moving your hands through the air. A genius of electromagnetic fields. a man who understood how invisible waves could carry sound. By the late 1940s, Theramin was working under Soviet control, building devices for the security services. And what he built for the Great Seal wasn't just clever, it was revolutionary. The Americans eventually gave it a nickname, the Thing, because they didn't know what else to call it. Here's what made the Thing so deadly. It didn't transmit on its own. It waited. Somewhere outside the ambassador's office, a Soviet team would aim a radio signal at the building, an energizing beam like a flashlight made of electromagnetic waves. That beam hit the device inside the wood. The device absorbed the energy, and the diaphragm inside it vibrated with sound, voices, laughter, arguments, secrets. Those vibrations modulated the reflected signal, meaning the radio wave bounced back, carrying the shape of the conversation. No battery needed, no internal power, no constant transmission, just a passive device that became a microphone only when it was illuminated from the outside, like a mirror that doesn't shine until you point light at it. And because it was passive, it was almost impossible to detect with the sweep methods of the time. If the Soviets weren't lighting it up that day, the device would sit there, silent, dead, perfectly innocent, which meant the Americans had been staring at the bug for years and not seeing it. When the embassy realized what had happened, the reaction wasn't just anger, it was humiliation, because the Great Seal had hung behind the ambassador's desk. That wasn't a random room. That was where the most sensitive conversations happened. Policy discussions, negotiations, private briefings, arguments between top officials. The Soviets didn't just listen to gossip. They listened to strategy. They listened to what the Americans feared. They listened to what they planned to do next. And they listened to it at the highest level for 7 years without being caught. In Washington, the news detonated quietly. No press conference, no dramatic public accusation. Because how do you explain to the American people that a gift from school children had been transmitting secrets to the Kremlin? How do you admit that the symbol of American power, the eagle itself, had been turned into a Soviet ear? So instead, the story moved through classified channels. Defense officials asked what else might be compromised. Intelligence officers asked how far the Soviets had pushed this technique. And the most dangerous question of all appeared in private memos. If they can do this inside the ambassador's office, what can they do anywhere? Because this wasn't just a bug. This was a new category of threat. A passive, externally powered listening device that could be embedded inside furniture, walls, gifts, decorations. If you didn't know exactly what you were looking for, you could sweep a room 100 times and still find nothing. And now the Americans had to assume that anything could be listening. That paranoia did something it was designed to do. It broke trust, not just in objects, in people. Every friendly Soviet contact became more suspicious. Every cultural exchange, every gift, every handshake suddenly had a shadow behind it. And it changed the way embassies were built. If you can't trust your walls, you build new ones. The Americans began redesigning secure spaces with shielding, with soundproofing, with rooms inside rooms. They began treating even decorative items like potential weapons. They began testing for passive resonators, not just active transmitters. But even as the Americans adapted, the Soviets had already won what mattered most. They had demonstrated something brutal. You don't need a spy in the room if you can turn the room itself into your spy. And the Great Seal was only the most famous example, because once you understand the method, you realize why it was so effective. It weaponized human nature. We don't suspect gifts. We don't suspect symbols. We don't suspect the things we're proud to display. That's why the Soviets didn't hide the device in a floorboard. They put it in the one place everyone would trust. right behind the ambassador's head. Years later, when the Americans finally showed the device to other intelligence services, it caused a kind of stunned silence. Not because everyone didn't already know espionage was dirty, but because the elegance of it felt like the future, a bug that didn't exist until you woke it up, a microphone with no power, a weapon disguised as a trophy, and that's what made the story linger, not as a curiosity, as a warning. Because if the Cold War could reach you through a carved wooden eagle on your wall, then the true battlefield was never only borders and armies, it was trust. It was the space you thought was safe. It was the moment you leaned back behind your desk, lowered your voice, and said something you thought no one else could ever hear. For 7 years, the Soviets heard it, and the Americans didn't even know they were talking to the eagle.
Серый вокзал, газета, шепот, взгляд. Фото в кармане и выцветший мандат. Чужие имена в зашифрованных словах. Город дышит медленно, как тайник в подземных льдах. Холодная война, мы на разных сторонах. Тонкая игра, линия по острых льдах. Ты мой главный код, я твой риск и твой провал. Холодная война. Сердце тоже выбрало фронт. Тени за спиной, пальто до самых щек. Пар над сигаретой кружит, будто легкий шок. Пароль на губах, полувопрос, полужест. Выдох рядом с ухом и уже не различить, где честность, где интерес. Холодная война. Холодная война. Свет в окне, 3-й этаж, 5 минут. Если я зайду, назад уже не вернут. Рация молчит, стрелки режут темноту. Между долгом и тобой я застрял, как пуля в льду. Холодная война, мы на разных сторонах. Тонкая игра, линия по острых льдах. Ты мой главный код, я твой риск и твой провал. Холодная война. Холодная война.
Newspaper folded in half. Your face in the crowd for a second, then gone like a photograph. Matchbox pressed in my palm, corner cafe. 13 pass, sugar bowl, hiding the messaging. Bleeding move fast. Cold War, warm hands shaking. Both of our covers breaking. watching me. Suitcase under the bed falls, bottom snapshots map. One of us runs in the morning, one of us never comes back. Cold, cold, cold war, hands shaking, both of our covers raking. Cold, 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 hands shaking, just straying in the making. Static on the shortwave, your voice cut short. I won't betray you, then just noise on the port. Passport ready, but I miss the train. Choose the person, lose the chain. Cold war, warm hands shaking. Cool, cool, cool. Shaking. Cool, cool, cool.
Brown coat, gray sky, passport photo in my pocket, sugar cube and bitter coffee. Slide the matchbox to my side. Newspaper folded twice, then once again. Your left hand shakes a little, right hand never does. Cold war, warm breath, fog on the window between us. We trade secrets like cigarettes, slow burn, fast regret. Cold war, warm breath, who breaks first if we both pretend? Dead drop and daily bread. Payphone on the corner, code words in a crooked line. Weather's changing in the east, means someone's running out of time. Keys in the ashtray, car idling across the street. I watch your eyes, not your smile, to see what you believe. Cold war, warm breath, fog on the window between us. We trade secrets like cigarettes, slow burn, fast regret. Cold war, warm breath, who breaks first if we both pretend? Dead drops and daily bread. Under neon clocks and portraits, everybody's watching doors. You say my name in your language, sounds like something worth a war. If this all ends in a heartbeat on a stairwell, concrete red, would you keep my name a secret or call it out instead? Ooh. Ooh. Rain on the cable car roof, newspaper folded in half. Your face in the crowd for a second, then gone like a photograph. Matchbox pressed in my palm, corner cafe, 13 past, sugar bowl hiding the message, ink bleeding, move fast. Cold war, warm hands, shaking, both of our covers breaking, caught between borders and lies we wrote, classified hearts in a trench coat. Cold war, warm hands, shaking, history in the making. If they read our files, they'll see it plain. Two code names, one real name. Park bench, fountain at dusk, you talk like you're ordering tea, but every word is a warning, every smile they're watching me. Suitcase under the bed, false bottom snapshots, maps. One of us runs in the morning, one of us never comes back. Cold war, warm hands, shaking, both of our covers breaking, caught between borders and lies we wrote, classified hearts in a trench coat. Cold war, warm hands, shaking, history in the making. If they read our files, they'll see it plain. Two code names, one real name. Static on the shortwave, your voice cut short. I won't betray you, then just noise on the port. Passport ready, but I miss the train. Choose the person, lose the chain. Cold war, cold war. Brown coat, gray sky, passport photo in my pocket, sugar cube and bitter coffee. You slide the matchbox to my side, newspaper folded twice, then once again. Your left hand shakes a little, right hand never does. Cold war, warm breath, fog on the window between us. We trade secrets like cigarettes, slow burn, fast regret. Cold war, warm breath. Who breaks first if we both pretend? Dead drops and daily bread. Payphone on the corner, code words in a crooked line. Weather's changing in the east, means someone's running out of time. Keys in the ashtray, car idling across the street. I watch your eyes, not your smile, to see what you clocks and portraits, everybody's watching doors. You say my name in your language, sounds like something worth a war. If this all ends in a heartbeat, on a stairwell, concrete red, would you keep my name a secret, or call it out instead?